you're going to need to zoom out. Just a little bit more. Keep going. That's probably as much as we're going to be able to fit in the frame. Hello foliage family. Today we are going to try and extend one of the longest, tallest, biggest plants in my collection. Beautiful plant is my Epipremnum Pinnatum elbow. I've had it for, I want to say 5 years now, and I bought it as a literal like cutting. The leaves were around the same size as this Calathea plant when I first got it, so quite small as you can see. Immediately put it on a moss pole and I do not regret those choices. So as I said, we are going to be extending my Epipremnum because it has definitely come to the top of its moss pole. To explain it in a little bit more detail, I'm actually going to have to bring you closer to the plant. Alright, so here is where the problem is. It has definitely gone off the top of the moss pole. You can see there's actually 2 distinct moss poles here. This is the bottom, this is the top. This is like a garden stake that sort of helps to stabilize it. I also have foam around the pot to stop it from moving because it can get really unstable in there just because it's so top heavy. Look at that root. Look how massive that root is. Usually what I do is a chop and extend. I take the bottom moss pole, remove all the plants, add new moss, take that, put it on top, move this section down, and now you've got room for it to grow up. But I can't do that because it's winter. In winter time, it's just not the best time for me to be doing this. So instead, I'm just going to extend it. So to keep the continuity of the moss poles, I wanted to use the exact same kind of moss pole that I've used previously. The only issue is there was a plant in it. I have now since decided that I don't really need a second Epipremnum downstairs, so past Romani tirelessly removed all of the bottom part of the plant and added new moss. It was a bit of a process, and I am going to flip back to past Romani now so you can enjoy that journey with me. So this is the bottom cutting of my Epipremnum Pinnatum elbow. The bigger one is the one that I think I've just shown you upstairs. I'm filming this out of order, so I'll show you the upstairs one when I go to put this extension on. But you can see it has grown well off the top of the moss pole, and has grown quite wild. This had attached itself actually to a wall, like this part here. So it needs to be chopped and it needs to be propagated. You can see there are a lot of roots inside of this moss pole. It's going to be a lot of work, but you can see there are a lot of stems inside there. Oh my god, this is so rooted in here, this is going to be impossible. Okay. Alright, so full of roots, but this one had been growing for a really long time, so that makes sense. I'm worried I'm like snapping the top branches up here, but kind of just have to roll with it, I think. They've got to come off. They have to come off at some point, so I'm just going to chop them off, which feels really sad. But some of them have got some crazy aerial roots, so maybe they will root. Might, I don't know, water propagate them. Don't quite know what I'm going to do actually. We'll find out together what I've decided. There's a lot of that top section there that's not rooted, but specifically this part here has like a lot of aerial roots. I might chuck these top parts in some water and just see if I can get those aerial roots to start drinking up water. So I think I might chop, yeah, I'm gonna chop here and take another leaf off. That's gonna go into water now. So this part will be submerged. Hopefully get these roots going. So these are just going to be individual cuts that I will propagate in water. And the top has a leaf, but basically nothing else. I think it was searching to find something to cling onto. So there's a juicy root here. I'm just going to chop it. It's going to be another little water propagation. I think I'm going to make pretty much all of these also just like single node cuttings. So where the leaf comes out, you can see there's some roots there. This is the node. This is where the new leaf will come out of, is probably around here. So if I chop, this will go in water with the leaf facing the way it usually does. And this root will grow some more and a little new leaf will pop out from here. With single node cuttings like this that have no leaf, I could just chuck them in my sphagnum moss bin that I've just got right here. I think the next step for this plant is to go in and sort of decide where I'm going to propagate. So at the bottom, you can see there's a lot of empty nodes, but they will have really great roots. So I can still pot them up and they will still sort of grow. So even though it's relatively empty down the bottom, it's still quite useful. But this whole stem is one, oh, where am I on chop? Here. Oh, around here. That is just one of its own, and then like here. I think that's what we're gonna go with. And then I'll decide the top sections later. The next thing to do is I'm gonna go around and chop off all of these like little zip ties. go through and remove the rest of the sphagnum moss from the back of here, go through, chop them all up, and I will come back to you once I have gotten all of my choppings, and then we will go through how we're gonna propagate them. We are back there. There's a lot going on here. So these are all of the ones that were taken from the top, and I don't think that any of them have like enough root on them that I'm just going to pop them straight in the soil. I think all of these are going to end up being water propagated to begin with. So these are just going to go off to the side to eventually be water propagated. These two parts here were top cuts that still had like anchors in the sphagnum moss. So their roots aren't, I wouldn't say fantastic. This one's better, but this one's roots are, you know, minimal. I think I'm just gonna risk it for the biscuit though, and I'm gonna pop these both in containers. I think one each, give them their best go. Let's do that now. We're gonna clear some space. These are all stems, and then these are stems with minimal. Oh, that's just a stem. Stems with leaves but minimal roots. Stems with leaves but quite a lot of roots. It's kind of my sectioning, and then I've got a bunch of pots. So let's just, start potting and hope for the best. It's not like ultra glamorous, but these are the top cuts, and I've just put them in a slushy cup of water. That's all you really need to do, and eventually they will root up properly, and then I can make these their own beautiful plants. So those are the two top cuttings. And then this is the crazy mess of like stem cuts. So if I turn it this way, you can see all of the stems that are in there. So it's just a bunch of stem cuts that will eventually grow. Oh, and some of them are already falling out. And as for these last little bits, they are just going to go into the prop box. I am not going to look too hard at them, just going to sort of shove them in and hope that they take root. Hello, present me now. So I have left the bottom of this unzip tied on the side there because the idea, I guess, is to slot this on top of the moss pole and zip tied in for safety. I am dropping moss all over the floor, but let's give it a go. Alright, so I have no idea how I'm going to do this. Okay, firstly, really trying hard not to damage leaves, taking out the little water bubble thing. Okay, so try and push that leaf to the front so that it's out of the way. And then I'm just gonna have to pull this. It might break some roots, but it can't be attached the way that it wants to. Ooh. Okay. Come on. Pull forwards. It's not ideal that I've left it so long. Epipremnums have really grabby roots, and it is locked in. It's locked in, and it does not want to move. Oh God, it's so strong. Manually pull it back so I can actually get. Don't snap. Don't snap. Oh my God. Okay. If I pull any harder, it's gonna snap. I think I'm gonna need a second set of hands in here. So to explain, this pole needs to get slotted in here. But to do that without damaging the plant, I need to push this stem back and then slot it behind the stem. But I can't pull the stem back and slot it in carefully at the same time.
Oh, I see.
So I need you to come and pull the plant back without snapping the stem.
So you just need to give it a little like, and then just kind of yank.
Yeah.
Is that far enough?
I'm learning this with you, so no further. Keep going.
Cool. That's far enough, I think. Was that recording the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Sorted?
No, hold on. I gotta line up some holes and then I've gotta clip them on.
Right.
So just give me 30 seconds to.
Okay.
And then zip tie.
I can see my weird gross hairy hands. Right, is that connected? It's not like structural, hey?
It's not structural.
What?
I mean, it's kind of structural.
It'll do.
Alright. That was an obvious gap in the moss. I don't know if you can see that, but the moss isn't mossing. It's not quite. Oh, you know what? She's on a bit of a lean, but I would say structurally somewhat sound. Where it does live is actually up against a wall, and I usually have it like leaning backwards. So it's like leaning on the wall and it's not going to like fall over. But where it is right now is very precarious and it could fall at any minute, and I'm a little scared. So we're up to the plant care portion of this video, and look, I really wish that there was some sort of like trick or like magical thing that I do that I could add in. But to be completely frank with you, I feel like anyone could take care of this plant. It is honestly the easiest care plant that I've ever had, and I have a lot of plants, so I think that says a lot. So I'm going to try and cover all the bases, and I'm going to start with light because I feel like that is something that I would get a lot of questions of, like what kind of lighting is it in? I think I would call where it sits medium indirect light. It's not low light, but it's definitely not bright light. It does occasionally get direct light, but I would say that direct light is only around 2 to 3 months a year in the summertime. And it's probably only like maximum 3 hours of that direct light, and again it's only in summer. But it gets a medium light pretty much for the rest of the year. And where it used to live in my old house was also pretty dark as well. To put it like simply in a way that maybe makes more sense, I wouldn't grow my Monstera albo there, or any of my philodendrons. I fear this is a place that I would really only ever grow syngoniums. If that gives you an idea of the lighting level, syngoniums are pretty hardy and they don't really mind where you grow them. So the second thing I want to talk about is support, and along with support I'm also going to mention watering. So watering and support sort of go together here. The only reason I have it on a moss pole is because of how frequently I like to chop and extend it. So the moss poles I feel just make that process a lot easier. It's easier to attach one to another, build them up taller, and if I want to take the bottom sections and cut them up, repot them, turn them into new plants, I find that process is a lot easier if it's on a moss pole. But I've also grown it up stakes, like wooden stakes, chopsticks. I've grown portions up chopsticks, pretty much anything. It has attached itself to a wall before. Pretty much anything. If there is something nearby, it will attach. When I was extending it, you could even see that parts of the roots had attached themselves to the plastic of the moss pole. No moss, just plastic. So honestly, as long as you give it something to climb, anything for it to climb, it will be happy. I just don't suggest growing it as a trailing plant. If it doesn't have something to attach to, it will tend to go a little bit runnery, and you might have some missing nodes, but as long as it has something that it can attach to, it will be happy. This pole looks quite bushy, and that's because it also has 2 stems growing up it. When it was really small, I think it had, four stems growing up it, but as it's gotten older, the 2 stems that grew the fastest were the ones that ended up staying on the pole. But if you want a more fuller look, especially if you're starting off with a more juvenile small plant, I would suggest that you grow multiple stems up the pole so that you can get like a bushier look. Now, I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this part. There is an ugly stage for this plant. So when it's cute and it's got its little leaves, it looks fine. When it's big and it's got these big beautiful fenestrations, it's fine. But there's a middle time. In the video where I am removing the stems from the previous moss pole, that's the ugly stage, I would say. It's when it's starting to get its fenestrations. It can get some weird shapes. It can get some weird leaves going on as it's like trying to begin its fenestrations but not quite getting there yet, and it can look a little ugly. But it probably lasts a year. Fight through. Again, this is 5 years in the making, and it started off really small. As for watering, I don't water the pot. I only ever water the pole. I have the little glass ball that sits in the top. I let that drain through. I know other people use plastic cups with holes in the bottom. Anything like that just helps to soak the pole through. Sometimes I also just spray water at it. Really anything that gets the moss pole wet, you're good. As for pests, I would say that I haven't had really any issues with pests. I think once it got whitefly, and that was because the plant near it had whitefly, and then I moved that plant I didn't do anything with this plant and it was fine. The whitefly went away. So I don't know if it's just not tasty, but I've not had thrips, I've not had spider mite touch the wood or the woods. Touch wood, I've never had any issues with this plant with pests. I used to say that I'm pretty sure it didn't have pests because I used to shower it, but I don't think I've showered it since I've moved, and that was over a year ago. So I think it's been a year since I showered this plant and it still hasn't gotten any pests. And it's not that I haven't had pests, because this room has had spider mites. I think it is a pretty resilient plant. If you did have pests, I'd probably say just wash down the leaves, spray them with a bit of neem oil and you'll be fine. It is very, very hardy. I know there might be a little bit of a concern for browning, like the white of the plant browning. But I only really get that when I fail to water the moss pole. So if I've been really lazy and I haven't watered the moss pole properly or like saturated the bottom of the moss pole, that's when I'll tend to get browning on the leaves. And I usually take it as a sign. So it's not, the plant isn't, you know, its leaves aren't browning like a monstera where it could just be the plant. I think if it's browning, it's me, I've done something wrong. More than likely I've let the moss pole crispy dry out, or the soil is really dry, something along the lines of that. I've never experienced it browning and continuing to brown. It's only ever browned when I've not watered it properly. As for amount of variegation, it does lose, I think, a little bit of its variegation if it's grown in super low light, like I'm talking low light, because I have had cuttings, obviously, of this plant grown in other locations, and when it's been grown in low light, dark, then it lost a lot of its variegation. But for the most part, its variegation is super stable and it's beautiful and it's white. I may have lucked out with the genetics of this plant, but yeah, usually even if some of the leaves start to go a little bit more green, it's not too long before that white comes back. Something you might notice as well is that the top leaves of the plant are more yellow, while the bottom leaves of the plant are more white. That develops over time. So the leaves will come in with a yellow variegation, like a creamy, I'd say more of a creamy white, and then over time, as the leaf sort of hardens off, it will go white. I've never really had issues with the variegation staying yellow. It always ends up going white eventually. Honestly, if there was a house fire and there was only one plant that I could save, this is the plant I would take with me. I think the last one would be Humidity, I think, for care, and like, I don't know, mate. I don't think it cares. Prove me wrong. I don't think it cares. Okay, I have to do the disclaimer, I guess. I live in Australia, Brisbane, Queensland, which means that in winter my average humidity is around 50% and in summer my average humidity is around 70%. Thank you, Google. So when I say it doesn't really matter, keep in mind those are my just average humidity levels. I have never and will never provide my plants extra humidity. They don't need it. That's excluding plants obviously that are tissue cultured or alocasias that I put in like domes, but I'm never going to like pop a humidifier on, like a physical humidifier, being boom that on, because that's just asking for mold in my environment. It's already very humid. But I don't think this has really shown any difference in how it grows in summer compared to winter, in a drafty room with a window always open compared to a closed room. It's never really shown a big difference depending on the humidity. I've never seen it get bigger leaves because of more humidity. I've never seen the white get whiter because of humidity. Generally, I don't think it cares too much about your humidity. Alrighty, that is it for today's video. If you've made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much. Please drop me a leaf emoji in the comments, let me know that you've made it this far. Like and subscribe, do all the YouTubey things, you know the deal, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!